The leg stump. 101 days since Trent Rockets men and Oval Invincibles women won the second edition of the 100. Today we will fill the squads for this summer's edition of the 100, and it's the first draft ever for women's sport in the UK. The 100 has taken over Sky Studios for the 2023 draft. There's some star players here and some will talk to us via Zoom. So who will be picked up?
Lovely from Baba Azam.
Danni Wyatt has shown her class.
Finch gets another century.
Brilliantly played.
Willis' figures are even better now.
She's on a hat-trick, Kate Cross.
That is Tom Benton.
What an inning for Sophia Dunkley.
So clean from Matthew Wade.
That's a good shot.
Massive wicket for Trent Bolton.
Really good batting from Susie Bates.
That is marvellously played.
Beautifully struck for Devine.
He's on absolute fire.
Well, Trent Rockets men, Oval Invincibles women won the 100 last year. Who will win in 2023? Well, to start with, they've got to put a squad together, and that's what we're going to do today. Welcome, Nasser Hussain. Lots to sort out. 30 men to be drafted, 34 women to be drafted. It's not straightforward.
It's not, but it's very important. There's a lot of razzmatazz and, a lot of fun. But we did the first draft in 2019 here in Sky. And we left, to a man and woman, we left that evening thinking that Southern Brave side looks a serious side. And 2 years later, because of COVID, who goes on to win it? That side. I was in a car going from Cape Town to Pal in the WPL draft. And by the time we got out, the Delhi Capitals had, who did they have? Meg Lanning, Shefali Verma, Jemima Rodrigues, Alice Capsey and Marizanne Kapp as their top five. And I went, that's a serious top five. And they're in the final of the WPL. So it feels like razzmatazz, it feels like fun, but you take it seriously and you get it right.
Would you say the draft is slightly easier to put together than, say, the IPL auction?
I think so, yeah. I mean, obviously, that is the finances of that and the huge nature of players coming for long periods. It's a little bit more easy because, for example, that's going to be there all the time. Your players are there all the time unless you get injured. Yeah. They are available for the whole of the IPL, generally. Stokes might miss the end couple of weeks or whatever to come back for the Ashes. In this one, and that's why this is important for this, if you look at it, for example, West Indies players generally you want in any T20 100 competition. But they've got the Caribbean Premier League, they've got that 60 comp, they've got a Caribbean West Indies cricket going on. Bangladesh, New Zealand haven't got any cricket. So all the coaches that are around will be factoring in availability of players in the 100 draft.
What have you made of the first 2 years, then, of the competition? It has been divisive in some quarters, but when you go around the grounds, the diversity in the age groups that are watching the cricket is fantastic.
Yeah, that's not been divisive. The one thing is absolutely, I'm 100% certain about, if you walk around 100 audience, 100 crowd, they are the exact target audience that the ECB were looking for. There's a lot of families there, a lot of fun. The atmosphere is completely different. It's very enjoyable. The timings are crucial. I hope they keep to those timings because 20-over games seem to be going on for longer and longer and longer. So the timings are absolutely vital. The disappointing thing for me is there have not been close games. And I was speaking to Moeen Ali about this last year. He feels still sides panic a bit. Because it's 100 balls, it's even shorter than a T20. We're behind, panic. And Moeen said, look, just give yourself 5-10 balls. There is still time to catch up. Don't panic quite so early.
OK, let's get on with it. Here's how the draft works.
In the 2023 edition of the 100, squads will be assembled in a three-stage process. Stage 1, player retention. Teams have already had the opportunity to retain players from 2022. The men's teams could keep up to 11 players, including an England centrally contracted player. Women's teams could retain 4, with a maximum of 3 being marquee players, meaning either overseas or England centrally contracted. On to Stage 2, the draft. Teams will have the chance to fill some gaps in their squads of 15. The draft pick order will be the reverse of the 2022 standings, meaning the team that finished bottom of the table will get the first draft pick this year. In both competitions, this was the Welsh Fire. Danni Wyatt, not originally retained by her 2022 team, may still be re-signed in a situation called right to match. Each team has one chance to match an offer made by a rival side for a star name they want to keep for the 2023 season. After today's draft, there is Stage 3, Vitality Wildcard and Open Market. Men's teams will pick 2 more players as wildcards during the 2023 Vitality Blast campaign, rewarding in-form domestic players. The women's team will operate in an open market. Having already selected 8 players in the draft, they can now approach unsigned players to fill the remaining 7 spots in their squad of 15. And that is the 100 draft.
Sounds simple, doesn't it? As Nasser's mentioned, particularly in the men's side of the draft, player availability, overseas player availability is tricky. The right to match, though, in the women's side of the draft could be very, very interesting and quite complex.
Yeah, I mean, it's important in the men's, but not as important. Most of the sides, have been successful, so they've got 10 picks, so they're filling their gaps, 3 spots. Obviously, the Welsh Fire, who'll have the first pick, both men's and women's, they've got more gaps to fill. But in the women's, with only 4, and I think the Welsh Fire have got 2, but in the women's, they've got 4, so they've got 4 spaces to fill. But also, most of those sides, if not all of them, will want certain players back from last year. Maybe Sophie Devine, captain, just got 99 for the RCB, captain of the Birmingham Phoenix. They might want her back. So you can see some tactical selections going on to make other teams use that right to match card.
Well, the other thing to mention is Annabelle Sutherland has pulled out of Welsh Fire. So they had pre-selected Tammy Beaumont, Hayley Matthews and Annabelle Sutherland. She's pulled out, so they've got an extra draft pick today. And we should also remember all sides have 7 further picks in that open market later. So we're not going to fully complete the women's squad this evening.
No, but absolutely vital you get your selections right this evening. Your big gun players in the women's game, they are still your big gun players that will win you off their own bat. I look at someone like Marizanne Kapp in the last couple of finals. Bang, she's there when you need her. So don't just think, we've got 2 or 3 spots to fill. It doesn't really matter. We'll see how it goes. It's a big, big day for the Welsh Fire. Make no mistake, men and women, the Welsh Fire, for a number of reasons. A, they've got more gaps to fill, lots of gaps to fill because they've not retained many players. And B, because that is a hotbed down in that southwest of England and obviously Wales. That is a hotbed of cricket. It's produced some of the great white ball cricketers we have ever produced, and there's no cricket down there. So absolutely what the Welsh Fire do across that bridge is absolutely vital, and they've had a couple of poor seasons. It's a big day for them.
Well, the reason that Nasser is highlighting the Welsh Fire in the men's side of the 100 is because they've pretty much ripped up and they have started again. So Jonny Bairstow is their centrally contracted player. Joe Clark, Ollie Pope, David Payne and Jake Ball and Scrimshaw are the ones they've retained. So they're starting with not a blank canvas, but they're starting with a lot of options, a load of money that they can try and get players in to reinvent themselves and get into the game. They have got some experience though. Bairstow is fit, Clark plays, and fantastic player, and of course Ollie Pope. So there is experience there in the batting at least. Yeah,
I think they need more batting. I think that's what lacked. Obviously Jonny Bairstow wasn't available last year for him. He pulled out on the eve of the tournament. They need runs. They didn't get runs down there. It's not an easy wicket to bat on, actually, down there in white ball cricket. It can be quite tricky, and you can get out and nick a little bit. And if you look at their runs last year, I think Ben Duckett got a few, but no one else really. And Ben Duckett has moved on from there, and he's told the new coach, Mike Hussey, don't pick me as your right to match. I don't want anything. I want to move away and have some success somewhere else. I want to win trophies somewhere else. So I think if I was Mike Hussey, we need runs on the board. I want to get some best batters there as possible.
And it'd be interesting to see how often the centrally contracted England players play. I mean, we know that Stokes is struggling with the knee. It will come off the back of quite a condensed Ashes series, same for someone like Jofra Archer. You want those players playing, of course.
I think there's more likelihood this time round because of the World Cup coming up after that, and also England don't play a white ball game until August the 31st or something. So Rob Key and Joss Buttler will want his white ball cricketers to play in this tournament. Again, I would have done something slightly different, Wardy. They've increased the salary to those England contracted players to incentivise playing in this. if you're Ben Stokes or Jofra Archer, 10, 15 grand here or there to play, they'll make their decision on how their body is, how they are mentally, what they need to do to be ready for a World Cup. I would have used that extra money in the women's game. The women's game in this comp has been the shining light. It is, if you ask me, one sport that's going to grow and grow and grow, it's women's cricket. It's already happening. I'd have used that extra money to get the star Aussies that aren't, some of the star Aussies that aren't staying after the Ashes.
Now, Nasser and I are slightly irrelevant, really, in this draft because the real hard work is happening in mission control with the ECB on Zoom calls to all the coaches. Hannah Wilkes and Charlie Dagnall are going to be doing the heavy lifting for us today. What's happening down there, guys, and good luck.
Oh, thank you. I think we're going to need it. It's going to get a bit busy in here later on, isn't it? We've got 8 general managers and their analysts all on a video call behind us. They're, of course, in contact with their teams as well, but Mission Control is the nerve centre of the draft because those guys are in contact with the 100 Dream Team, and they wanted me to call them that, I promise you. They'll be processing all the picks throughout the afternoon for both the women's and the men's drafts. And, Charlie, we're expecting it to get fairly tactical early on, aren't we, when it comes to the women's draft?
Yeah, very much so. And the right to match, as was explained a little bit earlier, is a really key aspect of this draft because essentially sides can be picking for other sides. If they feel there is a chance of a player that they might think that another side will desperately want, they can use that. The right to match has been played and then they get to pick again. So there's going to be so much tactical picking. All of the preparation in the world that you've done for the last couple of months or so that leads to this day, and Nasser said it, this is so important. Your season can be made or broken on this particular day. Can all go up in smoke depending on who gets selected.
There are some tense-looking faces on that screen behind me, and we're going to limber up and get ready because we are so looking forward to this, Ian. It's not long to go until we start this very first Women's 100 draft.
Yes, they are just getting themselves all ready, the coaches and all their analysts, and they're under the clock as well. It's 100 seconds between each pick. So if you have your well-written plans and the right to match comes in, there can be pandemonium. I can't remember who it was, but someone in the first draft was looking for Kane Williamson's name and he couldn't find it on the computer. It was probably about 10 seconds. It took him 40 or whatever it was. It felt like 40 seconds. It took 10 seconds. They're under the pump.
They are. I mean, it's a great gig for the analysts, isn't it? It's absolutely
There's so many of them
so many around.
Yeah.
They're absolutely vital. But we haven't even mentioned coaching. You know, coaching, it's become like serial winners. And this, John Batty, Oval Invincibles coach, twice they've won it. Delhi Capitals coach in the women. They're in the final. You look at Mahela Jayawardene, 3 times Mumbai Indians winning coach, wins it first year Southern Brave. Stephen Fleming, 4 times winning Chennai Super Kings coach. He's taken over for Mahela. Who won it last year? Trent Rockets, who was their coach. Andy Flower, serial winner. I know he's just lost the PSL final, but marginally, you know, by the barest of margins. I mean, he wins everything. The anomaly with Andy, with franchise cricket all those years ago, now he knows exactly what he's doing in franchise cricket.
How much do you think you can also step away from the analysts, though, and look at potential characters within a dressing room? Because you are, in essence, creating different teams. If you're in the BPL, you're in one side. You then could go to the SA20, the IPL 100, Caribbean Premier League. How much do you think they're looking at actually building a collective good?
I think so, and that also, I think, is very important, of keeping squads together, keeping sides together as much as possible. You look at some of the men's side, they've kept 10. You know, Andy Flower and the Trent Rockets managed to keep that sort of culture of Nottinghamshire and players that have played. Alex Hales has played there, Samit Patel has played there, Carter's played there. So they've kept their roots with that county, but then got their big guns in with Rashid Khan or whatever. And captaincy. I think captaincy, you know, very important. Meg Lanning in the women's game has been brilliant. Heather Knight is back this time for the London Spirit. She missed the whole of the last tournament because of injury. So captaincy, absolutely vital.
Right, let's start the women's draft.
What an innings it's been for Sophia Dunkley.
Striker's perfection.
Danni Wyatt has shown her class.
Beautifully struck for Devine.
Oh, brilliant catch. Beautiful shot for Jemima Rodrigues.
Brilliantly played.
Oh, gone. She's on a hat-trick, Kate Cross.
Well, those are just some of the big names available in this inaugural women's draft. There are 34 players to be drafted this afternoon. Welsh Fire are on the clock first. They've got 100 seconds. And let's get that clock started and get this women's draft underway. And Charles, look, I mean, we mentioned it already, but the Welsh Fire, with 5 losses last season, they tried to retain 2 overseas players, but as we've mentioned, Annabelle Sutherland has opted out, so they've got many spots to fill.
Well, the 2 spots they don't need filling, for argument's sake, are the top 2, and that's Hayley Matthews and Tammy Beaumont. You've got 2 openers already in situ, so the way that they build their side and turning a losing franchise into a winning one, now they can do a variety of things here. They can have a look at the draft and see what their favourite player is, and basically go and select that, or as we mentioned earlier, they can play it a little bit more tactically. So they can pick a player that maybe another side wants or is desperate for, and then automatically they have picked for that side. So they can actually go through and guess who the Southern Brave want or who the Oval Invincibles want, and potentially just go through the first side. That does a variety of things. Not only does it select for another side, but they get round to their second pick that much quicker, because in this price bracket, the second picks have been done for the rest of the franchises, so they will be picking number 9 effectively.
Well, that's exactly what has happened with the first selection by Welsh Fire. It has gone to a right to match. So that is in progress at the moment. A decision is being made by the team that has the right to match that player. No word exactly on who they've gone for and who is being potentially matched.
Well, I can tell you that I was having a look at this prior to the start of the draft, and I know who my 2 would be.
Who would it be?
And well, Danny Wyatt and Sophia Dunkley. They are the 2 big guns at the top of the order. They open the batting for England in T20 internationals, and I would look at those 2 and say, all right, Southern Brave, you use your right to match card on one of them, and then we will take the other. There is another scenario in this, because they don't necessarily have to look at those 2 players. What they can do is have a look at maybe who the London Spirit might want or bring back, maybe the Oval Invincibles. Do they want to select someone who they might really fancy bringing back? Shabnam Ishmael. Do they actually go and select her and say to the Oval Invincibles, go on, dare you do it? If they don't use that right to match card, they're still getting a serious player. So it's a win-win for the Welsh Fire, whichever way you look at it. So I'll be intrigued to know which way it goes. I'll be surprised if it's not Danny Wyatt and Sophia Dunkley. And whoever the Southern Brave, if that is the case, don't right to match, the Welsh Fire will gladly take the player that is left over.
Yeah, that right to match is still ongoing at the moment. And I'm just hearing, actually, behind me that first pick from Welsh Fire was Sophie Devine. But we believe Birmingham Phoenix have exercised their right to match. They have, so they retain the New Zealand captain. Quite a good result for Birmingham Phoenix, and Welsh Fire are back on the clock.
Totally, absolutely right. So they have taken away the Birmingham Phoenix's right to match. They cannot use that at all in the rest of the women's draft. Of course, Birmingham Phoenix is getting one of the best players in the world, and she bats and she bowls and she fields, and she is blistering up top. We saw her play a wonderful innings in the WPL the other day. Absolutely, she hit 99, absolutely blitzed it around the park, and that is what she has the ability to do. She also brings a huge sense of leadership to Sophie Devine, a wealth of experience. So that's not a huge surprise, but again, clever from the Welsh Fire. They've used that one. They're on the clock once again. They get to choose, and I would like to bet my bottom dollar that it's going to be between Sophia Dunkley and Danny Wyatt on this particular pick, and whether the Southern Brave actually use that right to match card.
Well, there is another right to match in progress, the Welsh Fire. I mean, this is so brilliant tactically, isn't it? Because they're going to end up with the player they want either way. And in the meantime, they're forcing the hand of their opponents. And like you said, they're getting back quicker to their 9th pick as well.
When I'm stuck in traffic around the M25, and these are the things I think about, well, what happens if X picks this particular player and Y picks another? And this is how it is actually panning out. And I'm actually really pleased that the Welsh Fire have done this. Rather than actually go for, say, Harmanpreet Kaur. Now, she doesn't actually have a right to match on anyone. So they have played it tactically. They are playing the game well as a draft is done. So now those 2 right to matches have gone. In the first round, as we're talking at the moment, the Birmingham Phoenix don't have a pick anymore because Sophie Devine has gone there, and the Southern Brave, the right to match who we're talking about at the moment, they've used once more, and so they yet again get to pick first. Who that will be, still waiting to hear on that. But there is a variety of different ways they can go, and I think they're playing the game very, very nicely here.
I mean, they've essentially had three. Well, they will have potentially three first picks. They're already on their second first pick, and it's the way of forcing their hand and just, I suppose, throwing off everyone else's draft strategies a little bit, because the way this works, every team on this board has taken the time to figure out who they want.
Absolutely. There's another one I could think of as well. How desperate I think the Manchester Originals will be to keep Kate Cross. Now, she wasn't retained. England international, wonderful seasons in the 100, fabulous with the new ball, and again, yet another one with great experience and great leadership. Do the Welsh Fire actually try and take another right to match away from them, because they can almost predict how those other franchises are going to take their first pick. So that is another option for you. But what we will find out, eventually they will pick someone who doesn't necessarily have that right to match card, and the vast array of players that they've got to choose from is huge. We're just hearing actually about the right to match as well.
We certainly are, because I'm throwing it out there, Charles. I think you might be psychic, because Danny Wyatt was the player that Southern Brave, Welsh Fire, had attempted to pick. Southern Brave have exercised their right to match, so Danny Wyatt heading back to Southern Brave. Charlotte Edwards was always going to want to keep her.
Of course, and why wouldn't you? She's one of the most blistering openers in world cricket. Great over the top. She's brilliant against the new ball. She's good against pace and spin. A great boundary rider as well. She's fabulous on the edge. She's got a bullet arm, and she can give you a few overs should you need her to. If this pick is not Sophia Dunkley, I'll be absolutely staggered, because the Welsh Fire will not want her going anywhere else. That should be the pick.
You're right on the money again, Charles. Sophia Dunkley has gone to Welsh Fire.
I didn't know that until it just came through my mouth. I promise. I absolutely promise.
But that's a great start for Welsh Fire, and you can, she's a great selection for them as well, and she's been having a great time in the WPL, isn't she? She's in stunning form. Yeah, playing for the Gujarat Giants. Amazingly, they actually dropped her after she hit the quickest 50 of the tournament, and she went on to make 66. But again, she has adapted her game. She was brought up into the top of the order as England wanted to recreate their T20 side. So she went to the top of the order along with Danny Wyatt, had a huge amount of success. Don't bowl pace to Sophia Dunkley. She will put you out of the park. There's no grounds in the country that can contain her when she is on that kind of form. And again, it's an interesting one they've picked, Sophia Dunkley. I think they had to, but now they have a bit of a conundrum in that Sophia Dunkley is there, Hayley Matthews is there, and Tammy Beaumont is there. So one of those three is actually going to have to not take the new ball and come in at 3. And with their first pick, London Spirit have taken Grace Harris, the all-rounder. They were sort of a slow scoring side last year, weren't they, Spirit? Easy for me to say. What does Grace Harris bring to them as Manchester Originals are on the clock, and there's a right to match going on as well? As you say, that is exactly what they have addressed with Grace Harris. She booms it. She has middle order power, brilliant character, wonderful character, full of personality, fantastic in the dressing room. I have no doubt she offers you a little bit of off spin as well, but she hits big. She has been scoring big runs for the UP Warriors in the WPL, a really good pickup by them, and again, an interesting pickup by the London Spirit. I think their middle order is good. They've got Heather Knight, they've got Mealy Kerr, they've got Danny Gibson as well. So their middle order, I was surprised they didn't necessarily go for top of the order players, but Grace Harris is a fine pickup. That's 2 overseas players they've got in Mealy Kerr and Grace Harris, so good selection. Well, Manchester Originals have made their first pick. They've got Laura Woolford. The Northern Superchargers didn't exercise their right to match on Laura Woolford. Are you surprised by that? Yeah, really surprised, because they're taking one from over the Pennines. They've stolen from the Northern Superchargers. Look, Laura Woolford is a class act. I was desperate for her to open the batting for the Superchargers last year. When she did, she went and hit a fabulous 80, winning the game up at Headingley, and she is all-round a class act against the new ball. So a fine selection from the Manchester Originals. I reckon, though, that they have selected Woolford expecting Superchargers to use their right to match, and they haven't done that. And it means that Kate Cross, who was with Manchester Originals, has gone to the Northern Superchargers with their pick number 4, which is, again, unexpected. We've got a 2-player switcheroo. Yeah. That's what we've got with Kate Cross going from Manchester to Headingley. She bowls beautifully at Headingley, by the way, Kate Cross. I've seen her bowl some fantastic spells there. Again,
What do they have? What do the Superchargers need? Well, apart from Lisa Healy, they need strength in depth of their batting, but they have got a fine new ball bowler in Kate Cross. So no huge surprise that they've taken someone. I would have expected someone to get a little bit more strength in the middle order.
We're a few behind now because these teams are really flying through these picks. I know. Harmanpreet Kaur has gone to the Rockets, and there was no right to match available on her. But I mean, she's a huge scorer, isn't she, when it comes to short form of the game?
Different league at the moment in the WPL. Wonderful wrist that she plays with. There's an element of calm as well, especially in run chases for Harmanpreet Kaur. You're getting one of the world's best white ball players. Can manipulate and manoeuvre the ball into areas where there are not fielders, especially in the women's game, where you've only got 4 fielders on the boundary edge rather than 5 in the men's game. She can be devastating. I think that's a great selection, along with Nat Sciver-Brunt, both of them playing in the Mumbai Indians side together. So wonderful selection for the Trent Rockets.
Yeah, Susie Bates as well has gone to the Oval Invincibles. Southern Brave, of course, couldn't exercise their right to match. They already had that. They're getting a top order batter from her. Where does she fit in that team? Because that Oval Invincibles team just gets better and better.
Yeah, it does. And no real surprise, she was there last year. And John Batty, the head coach, likes the players that he knows. I saw this actually because he's head coach with the Delhi Capitals over in the WPL, and he found a couple of players there that he knew about and wanted, that he'd had experience with the Oval Invincibles. That's why Alice Capsey is at the Delhi Capitals. So no huge surprise. Once more, you're getting solid play from Susie Bates at the top of the order, a wealth of international experience. You know what you're getting. It's a safe pick for me. It's a very safe pick. It's a solid pick. Again, the Oval Invincibles going with what they know.
Yeah, Welsh Fire with the final pick of that first bracket as well. I've picked Shabnim Ismail, so she is going to Welsh Fire as well. They've got 2 new players on the board, and we are very much up and running with this draft.
Time well spent on the M25, I would say there, Daggers. That was outstanding. I mean, there's a lot of horse trading with that right to match, as suspected. So what have you took from that first round of picks?
Well, once we got through the right to matches, we actually got some picks in there. There are some top players in there, to be honest. You know, the trade-off between the Superchargers and the Manchester Originals. Wolfart was at the Superchargers. She's gone to the Originals. And the other way, Kate Cross has made the other journey. The most exciting young players at the moment out there, Grace Harris. Daggers touched on it there. She hits a seriously big ball. There's still some top-order players that are missing there, so you may want the odd top-order player. Sophia Dunkley going to the Welsh Fire. She'll add to their batting. She'll add to any batting. She got a 18-ball 50 in the WPL. Susie Bates, outstanding captain, lots of experience there. So pretty much what you thought. Danny Wyatt back of the Southern Brave. Wyatt and Mandana are really exciting, very experienced at the top of the order. So pretty much what you thought. Harmanpreet rejoining Nat Sciver-Brunt as they play in the WPL. So some definite trends already in the picks.
Right, we can speak to one of the players that was part of that horse trading. She joins us now. I think where are you, Sophie Devine? I'll see you in a hotel room somewhere.
Yes, I am. We're in Goa at the moment, so still in India, but obviously very excited about what's just happened.
Now, a little bird told me that he was watching you off camera and you were leaping about when you found out you were going to Birmingham Phoenix. Is that true?
Yeah, it was. I think gladly I had my mute on, but no, really exciting, I think. Had such a great time with the Phoenix last year, and Edgbaston, I think, is one of the best grounds to play cricket. I think the atmosphere, I know my good mate Pez absolutely loves the Holly Stand, so looking forward to getting back there later this year.
Can you believe where women's cricket is going at the minute?
No, I think it's been ridiculous, especially, I guess, what's happened the last sort of couple of weeks with the WPL. Obviously now the draft at the 100, it just seems that the women's game keeps going from strength to strength. And Nasser, I know you said it just before, I think the women's game has got so much potential to grow, and what's happened in probably the last 12 to 18 months, I certainly wasn't expecting it during my probably playing career, but certainly really fortunate and, just proud to be a part of it.
I mean, you debuted for New Zealand in 2006. The distance that the women's game has travelled is immense, but in the last couple of years, the speed of change as well has shocked quite a lot of people in a good way.
Oh, it's been fantastic. I think, like you say, making me sound very old, debuting way back in 2000. No, it is. It's fantastic, and I think this is something that we've been craving for so long now. We've obviously seen, particularly with the men's IPL, and I guess the way that it's been able to accelerate the men's game, and we've been holding out for that, and obviously the 100 as well. I think how well it's been received by the crowds there. I just think it's such an exciting tournament to be a part of. Obviously, for me, missing out the first year and then being part of it last year, it just, yeah, I think it's such an exciting time to be involved in the game when you've got formats like this that are slightly different. I guess at the end of the day, it's cricket, but it's just everything else that gets wrapped around it. So, look, I just cannot wait to get back to Edgbaston and playing for the Phoenix.
And you're going to join up with Elise Perry again, RCB and Birmingham Phoenix. She's taking her game to a different level. Not only is the game growing, but you have to grow with the speed of it as well, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, she's actually just in the corridor now, jumping about too. She's obviously really excited to hang out with me again. I think making a bit of a thing of it, playing in the same team. But I think for me, someone like Pez is someone who's the epitome of growing their game. I think it's really exciting. Even us old girls have plenty to learn still. So I think with tournaments like this, you can't stand still, and that's where it makes it really exciting. Is there's these young players coming through. I mean, obviously Alice Caps, who's been out here. I've seen experienced player. The opportunity to keep levelling up and try and match these youngsters is something that really drives me.
Great to speak to you. Thank you so much, Sophie, and congratulations on going back to Birmingham Phoenix. We'll see you in the summer.
Cheers, up the Phoenix.
Just a word of, not caution, but it is so exciting. But several women cricketers have said it to me, not least Heather Knight in an article with Ali Martin in The Guardian. Just a word of caution. We've got to be careful that the wealth and everything is spread around the game. We've seen the pressure it's put on bilateral cricket in the men's game. Can the women learn from that and adjust and guide their path a bit cleverer? Yeah,
I think so. I don't think we're at that stage at the moment. I think in the women's game, immediately there, she's talking about Alice Capsey. There will be soon be talking about Associate Nation. There was something originally in the WPL drafting of their rules about they should have an associate player with every team. I don't think that actually was followed up on, to be honest. There was one or two. So I think that's something the World Game does need to look at, and something maybe the 100 needs to look at in the future, that you have an associate. This is a game for everyone. It's not just Australia, India and England, because we see every World Tournament who are in the finals or semi-finals, Australia, England, India, South Africa recently. So try and grow the whole game, just not 2 or 3 nations.
Right, the draft continues. Hannah.
Thanks very much, Ian. Let's get 100 seconds back on the clock because we're into the £25,000 bracket, and we're starting with London Spirit because Welsh Fire already have Tammy Beaumont in that first slot here. But in terms of London Spirit, they picked up Grace Harris in that first round. What do they need?
They need quite a bit, actually. They need opening batters, they need quick bowlers, they need a keeper. Now, just recently, Risha Ghosh, the Indian keeper who hits a big ball, she has made herself available for the draft. There's a couple of young keepers as well. England under-19 keepers, Maddie Ward, Saren Smale, not Sophia Smale, Saren Smale, and they are serious batter keepers, the pair of them. So they need a variety of different things. Let's see if they address some of those issues.
Well, they've got a bowler. They've gone for Sarah Glenn. She was with Trent Rockets, but there was no right to match.
They don't need spinners.
They weren't listening to you.
They don't need spinners. One thing they don't need, they've got Mealy Kerr, they've got Charlie Dean, they've got Heather Knight. This is a sort of best player available type of pick. Look, you're getting one of the top 5 bowlers in T20 cricket in the world with Sarah Glenn. She again can hit lower order runs and is very useful in that capacity. But one thing, unless Lords is going to absolutely spin square, they will be devastating if it does, but they're going to need some seam options of the London Spirit. But again, a really good pick.
Manchester Originals have taken Amanda Jade Wellington. She's an all-rounder, but she's a really smart young spin bowler as well, isn't she?
Wrist spinners in short-form cricket are gold dust. Now, Amanda Jade Wellington, she could have been right to matched by the Southern Brave, but they've used it already. So, fantastic pickup for Amanda Jade Wellington to go to the Manchester Originals. She has got a huge amount of success in the 100. She's been one of the players of the tournament. So, very, very smart selection.
The Northern Superchargers have taken Georgia Wareham. You'll have just seen that on your screen as well. They haven't got too many spots to fill.
No, they haven't. And Georgia Wareham, I think it's a very, very solid pick as well. There are glaring needs in a variety of different areas. I mentioned about wicketkeepers. The 3 I mentioned, there are 3 teams that I think are crying out for wicketkeepers. Now, you might be able to get them a little bit cheaper, especially the young keepers. But make no mistake, those 2 young keepers I mentioned are absolute guns. They put on clinics in the Under-19 World Cup, so keep an eye out for Seren Smale and Maddie Ward as well.
And our next pick just in as well, with Southern Brave are on the clock at the moment. Anya Shrubsole has gone to Southern Brave as well. She was there previously.
She was.
And Charlotte Edwards very much keeping the gang together, isn't she?
Oh, very much so. Keeping the band together for a little while, and she knows what she's getting. Anya Shrubsole, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, the fact that you are getting a high-class international bowler, knows how to bowl. She's probably not had the wickets tally that she would have wanted to in the 100, but if you look at her economy rate, you just can't get her away. With the new ball, she's on you, puts the ball on a sixpence, swinging the ball back into the right-hander. So again, you know what you're getting with Anya Shrubsole.
And the way this draft works, excuse me for interrupting, is that it snakes back and forth.
So
the Southern Brave, they took Anya Shrubsole, then straight away they've just taken Chloe Tryon as well.
Love this pick.
I thought you looked excited by Chloe Tryon.
Because they're picking for need, the Southern Brave. And look, Charlotte Edwards is one of the smartest coaches around, head coach of the Mumbai Indians. She's been down at the Southern Brave for quite some time. They've got Danny Wyatt and Smriti Mandana at the top of the order. They've got Lauren Bell and Freya Kemp with the ball. They've got Maya Bouchier as well in the middle order. Now you have got a big hitter. Chloe Tryon, if you're doing okay and there's about 5 or 6 overs left, get Chloe Tryon in to dispatch it over the boundary edge. I think it's a really clever selection from the Southern Brave.
We are already on to the last pick in this £25,000 bracket. That is because Alana King is already at the Trent Rockets, Izzy Wong with the Birmingham Phoenix, Deandra Dottin is with the Manchester Originals, Amelia Kerr is at London Spirit, and the Northern Superchargers, I think I'm just hearing behind me, have made that last pick of this £25,000 bracket, and it's Heather Graham.
Heather Graham. Selected by the Northern Superchargers again, yet another overseas player, and I think again it's very, very solid. At the moment, Northern Superchargers are not necessarily going for those big names that we're talking about that are available to them. One thing they don't need is a keeper. They've got Alicia Healy, and she will lead the side fantastically well. Holly Armitage as well has led the Yorkshire Diamonds for quite some time. So that leadership that they have got, they're putting together a pretty strong and solid squad.
And that's what you need, isn't it? When it comes to 100 cricket, you need a solid squad. It's a tough old competition. And Woody, with two brackets in now, we are making our way through this women's draft, and some intriguing picks. Not too many surprises.
It's breathless stuff.
It is.
It is for you two. We're sitting here admiring how you're doing it. Fantastic stuff, you two. So Sarah Glenn is one of the picks there. Georgia Wareham picking up. We'll confirm all of that with the graphic in just a second. Anya Shrubsole going back to the Southern Brave. I mean, that might be one of those things that Charlotte Edwards knows us. She's familiar with the ground. She's familiar with everything that works around it. It's sort of what we were talking about earlier.
And she's an exceptional cricketer, really. So, already that Southern Brave side are looking very strong. Chloe Tryon will add to that. She's a serious hitter of a cricket ball. I was a little bit surprised that the London Spirit went for another spinner with Kerr and Dean. So they got Sarah Glenn as well. They look like they're lacking a top-order batter there. A couple of all-rounders as well selected. Spin to win in that section.
OK, right. We'll be hearing from Danny Wyatt after the break when we continue the first ever Women's 100 draft.
It's very simple. Gravelax. Yes! The Gravelax, please.
The UK's fastest 5G network. 3.
Get a wild box for $3.99. And feel like a big deal.
Well, welcome back. We're well underway in the women's draft from the 100, the first ever women's draft, and we've been busy, that is for sure. Plenty of names have been moved around. The right to match card has been played several times in that opening round. Opening round saw Sophia Dunkley go to Welsh Fire. London Spirit got Grace Harwich. Laura Wolfhart went to Manchester. Kate Cross went across the Pennines. And Harmanpreet Kaur went to Trentbridge. Sophie Devine went to Birmingham. Danny Wyatt is back at Southern Brave. We're hoping to hear from Danny in just a minute. And Susie Bates at the Oval Invincibles. That is the headline act so far. And I've just mentioned Danny Wyatt. We're just waiting to get her set up. I'm joined alongside me is Danny Gibson. We'll come to Danny in a minute from London Spirit. But Danny Wyatt joins us now. I don't know where you are, Danny, but great to see you. And you're back home at Southern Brave. Does that please you?
Right, Wardy. Yes. Absolutely delighted to be back at Southern Brave. The Ageas Bowl is the best place to play and I can't wait to get going again in the summer.
Looks like you were having a bit of horse trading around you and right to match cars. Did you know what was coming? Had someone given you the heads up with what was liable to happen?
Yeah, might have. Yeah, it's been really good to watch the draft so far and yeah, looking forward to watching the rest of it.
What do you need for the rest of the squad, would you say?
Maybe another bowler, another all-rounder's always handy. I've just seen that we've got Chloe Tryon and Anya back, so that's great news.
Yeah, well, the draft is continuing as we are speaking. What have you made of the change in women's cricket? I know you didn't go to India for that competition, but you did go to Pakistan. How was that experience?
Yeah, that was unbelievable experience. I've never been before, so yeah, I was very, very grateful to get the opportunity to play in Pakistan, and the people were just so lovely and very hospitable. And yeah, there's talks about a PSL happening at the end of this year, so fingers crossed they'll invite me out for that.
What sort of extra things do you learn when you do travel and experience other teammates, pick their brains, see how they go about training and practice and just their general preparation?
Yeah, exactly, and just, you know, the experience of being in another country and meeting new people, that's what it's all about, making new friends and, like you say, learning off each other as well.
Danny Nasser here. One thing we don't discuss in these drafts is how much say does a player have? You know, I know Ben Duckett saying earlier in the week that he didn't really want to go back to the Welsh Fire. Does a player have a say at all? Did you have any say?
Yeah, I had a good chat with Lottie and said I'd love to be back at the Brave, and obviously she's got to want me back as well, so delighted to be playing under Lottie, who's one of the best coaches in the world, so yeah, looking forward to getting back there.
What has the 100 done for the women's game, would you say, Danny?
Well, the idea was to get more girls playing cricket, and I think there's definitely a lot more girls playing cricket, and it's just so good to see the big crowds watching our games. Obviously with the double headers as well, it's just exceptional to see, and it's such great fun playing in front of big crowds like that.
And well done on the engagement, Danny. Many congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll see you down at the Ageas Bowl in due course. Thank you very much. To another
Cheers.
Danny Gibson.
Later.
Thank you for being patient. See you, Danny Wyatt. Nice to see you. Now, you were retained a while ago, so this is all just entertainment for you. There's no pressure at all. When did you find out that you were going to be back at London Spirit?
Found out a couple of weeks into December, got the phone call from the manager, and I was very pleased about it.
I bet. What sort of discussion, shall we say, happen around players that have been retained and managers, coaches, captains in terms of what we're about to see and are seeing in the draft? Do you get involved in all of that?
Not really. I guess obviously Heather's hugely involved. Can ask a few questions, be a bit nosy, but they don't really give a lot away. I think it just depends on how well the draft goes and who gets picked. It's been really cool to watch. I think the picks that have been happening are really good for the women's game, and I think it's going to be a really good tournament this year.
Well, I'm just looking at the picture. You've got Grace Harris, Sarah Glenn, Alice Davidson-Richardson has just been picked up, I think.
Oh, that's good.
How does that sit with you?
Yeah, good. We needed another seamer, I think.
He says you need batters.
Yeah, we do need another batter. We need a few things. No, but I think we've done some really good picks. Sarah Glenn's a good one to pick up. So, yeah, hopefully another batter, and I think we're looking like a really good team.
What are the pitches like? What have they been like then at Lords? I mean, you're quite spin heavy there, which works in short form cricket, no question about that. We saw that in the Women's World T20 in South Africa, but they were slightly tired pitches. Is that the sort of conditions you're playing on?
Obviously, Lords is an amazing place to play. I feel like it's not specifically a spin wicket, but in the women's game, I think spin works really well. So it's good to have those options and to have a variety of different bowlers. I feel like it'd be really good.
Nice to have Heather back as skipper. I mean, Charlie did very well last year. 18-year-old captain. There's a lot to ask of her, but nice to have the experience of Heather Knight back as skipper. Yeah,
I love playing under Heather. Played with her since being at Storm in the Super League. So yeah, I'm excited for her to be back on the pitch with us.
And you must be so excited. First, you watch the Women's World Cup. Then you watch this WPL that's going on. That must make practice a lot easier for you. You must be chomping at the bit.
Yeah, really excited to get going. Season's fast approaching and can't wait to get back out there. So yeah, it's been a really exciting year.
Am I right in saying you're still studying?
No.
Have you finished that now?
Yeah.
Why?
That.
Because of the opportunities that are available, or you finished a course and thought...
I started university, but then I realised that I just wanted to, as soon as the domestic contracts came out, I really wanted to focus on cricket. So, yeah, I left university to focus on cricket and just doing what I can outside of that.
So you didn't finish?
No, didn't finish.
So that's quite a change from what options would have been available to someone of your age maybe even 4 years ago.
Yeah, 100%. I think it was a good time for me because I was still really young and I was only 1 year into my university course, so yeah, I think it's really cool that we've got girls in our team that can still do university alongside it if that's what they want to do. And then girls growing up, like Soph Smell, she can choose to go to university or she can just go straight into cricket now.
That's the big change, isn't it? There is now a career. There is an option to park your studies for a while, whereas you probably never, ever would have said that or advised a young girl to do that not that long ago.
No, and it's going to grow and grow and grow, and I think, most, if not all of the women, the girls have a very sensible head on their shoulders. They will realise still that the best way is to play for your country, and then the franchise stuff will come. It's not just give up everything and concentrate on franchise cricket. The be-all and end-all should still be playing for your country, and if you excel in a World Cup or whatever, you can be so sure that the money will come and everything will follow that. Stick with your disciplines, what you do well, and everything else will follow from that.
Is that how you see it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's so exciting, the women's game at the minute, especially to be growing up in this era. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where it can go.
Well, it could go anywhere, that is for sure. Are there any concerns that, as we were discussing earlier, that focus on international cricket being the pinnacle can get squashed like it has done a little bit in bilateral cricket for the men?
I wouldn't say so much in the women's. I know that all the domestic stuff is stopping for when the Ashes are going on, which is good for the opportunity to go and support our country and our girls that are playing. But it's just sometimes you can be like, wow, it'd be nice to just keep going and playing because then it's quite a big gap. But no, I don't think it's that much of an issue, and it's good to be able to support our team.
Right.
And grassroots? I mean, it's all well and good. We look at the top, we're here in Fancy Sky, Central or whatever. What's it like down at grassroots club, schoolgirl level? Is this all filtering down, do you think?
Yeah, I think at my club it definitely is. Our women's setup is so much better than it was a couple of years ago. We've got training every week, we've got a lot better facilities. The schools, I think a lot of schools are getting involved, and the counties as well. I think it's all just growing so much at grassroots, it's going to make up higher. So much better.
It's just the opportunities that are now available, isn't it? I mean, it's just completely changed in a very, very short period of time.
It has, but you've got to grow with that change as well. So it's great, but then you have to have the facility, the pitches, the equipment. I know Lydia, for example, with the stuff that she puts on her, the business that she runs, the specific equipment that girls and women need. Umpires, female umpires, like we saw in the T20 World Cup, scorers. Cannot be the situation where the girls are playing and the mums and the making the teas or whatever. Those days have gone. What you see, you can become. So all the way through cricket, you've got to make sure that women and girls are involved. Coaches as well.
Okay. Finally, though, what was it like the first time you played in front of a big crowd at Lords? Could you believe what was happening?
Not really. It kind of went like a blur, really. Very shaky. Yeah, I think we bowled first, so I think the first bit of fielding was like, oh my goodness, there's so much again. Then people getting a few drinks down them and then shouting at you on the pitch. It's like, whoa, this is so different. But it's really good. Yeah, really enjoying it now. Got used to it a bit more.
We'll see you at Lords in the summer. Thank you very much
for
coming in.
Thank
Back
you.
to Mission Control, because the draft has been continuing as we've been chatting.
Yeah, it certainly has. It's been a very busy £18,000, £750 bracket, I should say, as well. And Charles, there was one selection just now by Birmingham Phoenix that had you fist pumping and whooping, and that was Hannah Baker.
Yeah, I think this girl has got absolutely everything. She's a leg spinner. She played for the England under-19s. She is a proper leggy. She gives it a rip. But she can not only bowl in the middle overs, she can bowl at the death. She can actually bowl in the power play as well. She bowled beautifully in the semi-finals and final of the under-19 World Cup over in South Africa. I was waiting to see where she would get picked. And this is a really good pick again from the Birmingham Phoenix. They don't have a huge amount of spin already. They've got Elise Perry, Izzy Wong, Sophie Devine, M. Arlott. So seam bowling, they needed spinners. I think they've made a really good selection. Some interesting ones elsewhere too.
There are. We've had another right to match as well. This one by the Northern Superchargers. They used theirs to pick up London Spirit's pick of Alice Davidson-Richards. Is there anyone that hasn't gone yet that you're really surprised by that's still on the board?
Well, one or two, actually. And I mentioned about those England under-19s. Watch out for someone like Davina Perrin, 16 years of age. She was with the Birmingham Phoenix last year on a sort of rookie contract, if you like. She's got everything. She bats, she bowls, she fields. She was part of the ACE programme. She was one of the ACE elite cricketers. She's only 16, but she has got everything. I mentioned those two wicket-keepers for the England under-19, and Maddie Ward and Saren Smale. Sophia Smale, think about that. Oval Invincibles, she picked up 9 wickets last year with her left-arm spin. How many times have we seen players make the breakthrough from in the 100? Alice Capsey in the first year, Sophia Smale in the second, both with the Oval Invincibles. So how many of these young players are going to make that leap into our consciousness and really make a name for themselves? So yeah, I like Alice Davidson-Richards down at the Northern Superchargers. That was a right to match pick, but again, made a big Test 100 last year against South Africa. She was part of the England setup. Here's a player who has worked herself stupid to get back into England reckoning, and again, you get batting, you get bowling, you get fielding, you get great personality.
Well, all the picks are now in for the 5th and 6th rounds of that draft. Let's take a look at the full boards so far, and one just to cast your eye over and get your thoughts on, Charles, is Dana van Niekerk at the Oval Invincibles. She's a young South African player with a real point to prove, and what a place to be able to prove it.
And do you know what? She has got a point to prove now. She's going back to the Oval Invincibles. She led them in the first edition of the 100. She was the captain. She wasn't selected for that final last year, and she was actually, because of the 4 overseas that they had, one had to actually be sat down for a majority of games, and it was her, and she wasn't happy about it. You could tell she wasn't happy. She wanted to be involved. She's got a great cricket brain, leg spin, can bat anywhere from 1 to 5. Again, it's another cricketer that John Batty knows very, very well. But she has a point to prove. She was left out of the South African side for the World T20 because of her fitness issues. She put on Instagram that just a single word, that she was broken, that she couldn't represent South Africa in her home country. She's out at the RCB at the moment. She didn't play a huge amount of games. In fact, I'm not sure if she played any of the games. So talk about a cricketer with a point to prove. That is Danae van Niekerk.
Well, we're back on the clock as well, and Welsh Fire really taking shape. They took Freya Davis with the pick 48, pick 49. They've just taken Laura Harris. In the meantime as well, London Spirit have just made their pick 2. They're on the clock. But let's just talk about Welsh Fire, because there's just one spot left for them to take in this draft. Freya Davies, Laura Harris, how do you like those 2 picks for them at this point?
Yeah, I really like them. I think that from their point of view, they needed bowlers. They needed opening bowlers, and Freya Davies can do that job, and she can also do it at the death. She's got a fantastic back of the hand slower ball. She bowls Yorkers very well, and that is, again, a need that is filled by the Welsh Fire. Whenever you're doing drafts and you're putting sides together, you've got a selection dilemma. Do you pick a player that fills a need, or do you pick the best player that you think is still remaining on the board and try and work them in? So that is a pick for need. I think they've picked a very solid one in that, in getting Freya Davies.
London Spirit have taken Sophie Luff. Manchester Originals have taken Katie George. In terms of players in this £15,000 bracket, where's the real value for you? Who are the hidden gems that we're going to potentially see in these last few picks?
There's lots out there at this moment in time, and I mean, we're going through a list of hundreds and hundreds, and at this moment, it's very difficult to just keep across it because it's all happening very quickly. Eve Jones hasn't been selected, who has performed very, very well. Again, left-handers are absolute gold dust. There's so many right-handers out there. So Eve Jones, who's previously played at the Birmingham Phoenix, she is out there. A couple of young players. Liberty Heap, an opening batter. Again, England under-19. She's a Burnley girl, so I've got a little bit of a kinship with Liberty Heap, but she blasted it at the top of the order. There are some players who have actually not declared for the draft, and they will get picked up in free agency. One notable absence is Grace Scrivens, the England under-19 captain. She was going to be playing she played for London Spirit last year, and she is not declared for the draft, so she's going to go at it in free agency and be happy with the wage that she's getting, because I think there is a particular place that she might want to play. And one of the players I was going to mention, I think, has just been selected.
Who's that?
And Maddie Villiers.
Correct. She's just gone to the Trent Rockets.
There you go.
You can see through the back of your own head. It's very impressive.
It's amazing. But yeah, Maddie Villiers, again, you're getting a serious cricketer. You're getting an off-spinner who has great control and great variation in her flight, brilliant in the field, useful in the lower order. So again, Trent Rockets have got a...
As you say that, there's actually been a right to match exercise on Maddie Villiers. So she's not going to the Trent Rockets. It's exciting, isn't it?
Fabulous.
She is going, I believe,
to the Oval Invincibles.
Yeah. So she's going back to where she was before. I mean, it just shows what a great player she is and how much in demand she is that they have used. I mean, the Oval Invincibles have waited a while as well. They're pretty certain as to who that side is, but they're regrouping and sort of there's not much change happening at the Kia Oval, is there?
No, not a great deal. And again, why would you think there should be? Because they've been so successful over the first 2 years. They knew the overseas players that they wanted. They've got the same overseas players back. Alice Capsey already there. Lauren Winfield-Hill, who had a brilliant season last year. She'll probably take the gloves as well. Now Tash Farrant is coming back. She had an injury, a stress fracture, all of last season. So it's like signing a new player, bringing Tash Farrant back. And then Maddie Villiers coming back and right to matching her. They're getting the band back together. It's been successful, so why would you try and change a winning formula?
And it's interesting that despite, bringing in the draft for the women's tournament and the limit on who they can retain, that actually the Invincibles are being very smart here and being consistent in being able to bring those players back. Trent Rockets are back on the clock, and I think there we go. Kirsty Gordon has gone to the Trent Rockets with the pick they originally intended for Maddie Villiers. So Kirsty Gordon instead.
They've got some spinners now. have the Trent Rockets. Although having said that, I should say that obviously they picked Maddie Villiers. She's gone to the Oval Invincibles, so they've actually gone with another spinner in Kirsty Gordon, and you get a high class left arm spinner. So no problems with that pick for the Trent Rockets. With already picking Harmanpreet Kaur, Lizelle Lee is someone that we've not mentioned. The Trent Rockets picking up their third overseas player, the South African opener. She retired from international cricket and is now just a franchise player, and she will boom it at the top of the order. So if you've got Lizelle Lee at the top of the order, you've also got a middle order, Nat Sciver-Brunt, arguably the best in the world. You've then got Harmanpreet Kaur coming in. That is a fearsome lineup, the top order. Plus they've got bowlers that can win you games. Alana King, the hat-trick last year at Trent Bridge, the Australian leg spinner. They've got a lot of bases covered. Like to see another seamer perhaps, but you've got Nat Sciver-Brunt and Catherine Sciver-Brunt. This is a good squad they're putting together, Trent Rockets.
Right, we are snaking back around into the last picks of this women's draft. The Oval Invincibles have taken Paige Schofield. Freya Kemp is already in that slot for Southern Brave. So Grace Potts has now gone to the Trent Rockets, and we've only got one more pick left for Welsh Fire in this women's draft. Who should it be?
Well, it's a difficult one. Looking at who they've got at the moment, Dunkley, Beaumont and Matthews, they've got the top order sorted. They've got the engine room. Georgia Elwis is in there. Laura Harris, who's come over as well, and that's a really good selection. That will be a massively underrated selection in Laura Harris. I think she could be a real find for the Welsh Fire. And just hearing that Alex Hartley has re-signed with the Welsh Fire. Sorry to steal your thunder there, but I've just heard it. Alex Hartley, who was originally with the Manchester Originals last year, she got transferred and she went to the Welsh Fire. A very popular figure, very accurate left-arm spinner, and a great personality again. So I think they've had a really good day, the Welsh Fire. I'm pleased with the way that they've selected. I think they will, and how they've actually played the game in the draft. Tactically, I think they're putting together a very solid squad, good overseas players. So I think they can feel optimistic about their forthcoming season with free agency still to come.
Yeah, it's been exciting, hasn't it? These, of course, aren't the complete teams for the Women's 100. This is just the draft that is completed. As Charles mentioned, we go to the open market now as well. So there are still some slots to fill, but 34 players picked as far as the women's draft is concerned.
Well done, you two. That was busy down there. As Hannah was saying, 34 players have been picked. That isn't a complete squad, though, in the women's side of the 100, because there will be 7 others from each team being selected in, like, the open market. That'll happen in due course. But of that last sort of little bit of chaos that Charles and Hannah navigated so brilliantly, a couple of names to pick up. I'm going to start with Dane van Niekerk, who's had a bit of an up and down ride on so many levels in the last few months.
Unfortunately, mainly down, really. I mean, she wasn't picked in the World Cup squad for South Africa, having been their captain, influential captain. Even last year in the 100, she started unfit, and Susie Bates took over as captain. They had to make a very difficult decision between their overseas players constantly throughout that tournament. But it's a very, very much a John Batty type of squad, isn't it, selection? They've won it twice. Why would you change that much? You know, they've lost Shabnim Ismail, who was a huge part of that side, but they've stuck even Maddie Villiers. They used their right to match card to get their all-rounder. Brilliant in the field, Maddie Villiers. She's had a quiet period because of how others have gone past her, like Sarah Glenn, etc. So it's a big year coming up for her. But it's a good story for Dane van Niekerk. And they will have, you know, someone like Sophia Smale. There are people that in the under-19s who aren't in the draft, but Sophia Smale was brilliant for them in the power play last year. So you can imagine John Batty wanting to go for her again to make that squad up to the 15 that's required.
Right, well, I got Danny Gibson excited when I said Alice Davidson-Richardson was going to go to her London Spirit, but right to match came late. She went to Northern Superchargers, and as you say, Maddie Villiers we thought was going to Trent Rockets. The right to match card was played by Oval to get her back there. Eve Jones?
Yeah, left-hander. She had a very good first year in the 100. Brilliant left-hander. Gives her that balance to their lineup. Look at Divine right, Amy Jones right, Elise Perry right-hander. Izzy Wong actually has really worked on her batting, and she's a good finisher for them. Obviously the pace option with the ball, but I like Eve Jones. Last year she had a quiet tournament. Hopefully she can kick on. So a lot of the sides have stuck to the players that they had last year. Alex Hartley going back to the Welsh Fire. She's a real character. She'll give them that experience. You know what you're going to get from Alex Hartley. I think that is a really good selection there. For 15 grand, I think Hartley, as your last pick there, was a good one.
Albeit not a straightforward place to bowl spin.
No, you have to bowl it into the surface, especially with the women's game that has changed. If we were sat here 3 years ago, I would say the women's game was all about touch. So you think Laura Wolfart, you think Meg Lanning. I think now it's about power as well. So you have the likes of Grace Harris. I know Talia McGrath isn't coming, but she'll belt you out of the ground. There are batters now. We saw the way in the eliminator that Nat Siver-Brunt nearly got them over the line, Trent Rockets. I think she hit 4 sixes, 3 sixes in a row. It's become much more of a power game, and spinners are going to have to just maybe bowl it into the surface a bit more.
Well, someone who had an absolute influence in getting Alex Hartley as one example to her side is Welsh Fire captain Tammy Beaumont, who joins us now. G'day, Tam. Nice to see you. Now, what do you make of the squad you've managed to compile? We'll go back to the beginning and how much tactics were at play from you lot down there in Cardiff.
Yeah, really, really ecstatic at the team we've put together. Very much kind of stuck to plan A, which is great, and a lot of tactics had to be thought about in terms of making sure we had options to get players without right to matches being able to put into play, and incredibly happy. I've already had a couple of texts from some of the girls saying they're ready to get going, so really happy with how it's gone so far.
How much planning has gone into this?
Oh, so much. It has been so stressful, to be perfectly honest. I think Friday afternoon we'd spent 2.5 hours going through every eventuality. We probably had 40 names on our long list in case certain things went certain ways, but then we obviously had Annabelle Sutherland pull out on Monday morning, so it would just like rip that up and completely start again. But yeah, then things kind of changed in the draft and we had to shift a little bit, and a few things went that I think weren't quite sure was going to happen or didn't predict to happen. So yeah, but on the whole, it's been really, really good to have those conversations, and we've all been pretty much on the same page in terms of who we're after. So I think we've got a really strong squad and really we're happy with how it's gone.
So take us behind the scenes. Did you select Sophie Devine first? Did she get right to match by Birmingham? Then went for Danni Wyatt. She went to Southern Brave. And that meant, of course, then that Southern Brave couldn't right to match Sophia Dunkley.
Yeah, that was what we expected to happen. Sophia Dunkley has just absolutely gone through the roof in terms of her performances and her strike rate and everything like that. And she'll bring so much to the team. It was a case of we obviously had the two top picks at 31,000, and we felt that in that we needed to try and attract at least one England player, one of the best domestic England players in the country, which I think Sophia Dunkley is one of them. We would have also been happy with Danni Wyatt. They feel very much a similar role. And then we felt we could go for an overseas player as well, with someone of that strike value of Shabnam Ismail, who can really be quite potent, we think, at our 4 home games down in Cardiff. So we felt we had to go, one gun overseas and one gun English player, and then look to get someone like Alora Harris as our third overseas, a little bit cheaper lower down.
You mentioned Shabnam there. I mean, it was a difficult year for you last year. She has some real character and some feistiness. The sort of cricketer when you want lifting, not only as players but as the crowd as well. Shabnam Ismail does that and has done that for a number of years.
Yeah, I think if we were kind of being quite critical on ourselves, one area last year we probably lacked a little bit of. We had a lot of talent in our seam bowling attack, but maybe not that experience and that real go-to strike bowler in all 3 phases of the game. And actually someone like Shabnam Ismail was definitely, well, obviously she was number 1 on our list to fill that, because she is someone that, as captain, if I need a wicket, I need to look round and go, right, she's going to get me one, or she's going to at least put them on the back foot or whatever. And I think she's gone up a notch in that World Cup in South Africa as well. So, and also not just, someone who is going to get you that wicket, but someone who's going to impact on our other bowlers and our other kind of bowling attack to, I think as a batting captain, you do need someone who's going to lead a little bit more in that area. And also that's why we went for someone like a Georgia Ellis, who's got so much experience, can obviously bat in the middle, but is so key in those middle overs to bring that experience and actually help our younger players as well, and not just fulfil their role and then go home at the end of the day, actually real offer and bring on the next generation as well.
So you're pleased with the selections today, but it's not done in terms of filling the squad. You've still got 7 other picks to go in the open market. What are you looking to fill with those 7 picks, would you say?
Yeah, I think we're desperate to make sure we've got a really well-rounded squad and almost be able to pick up, chop and change the actual 11 on the conditions. So if we need an extra spinner in, we need extra seamer in, we need extra batting. I think we probably need to get a couple of domestic batters in there. We obviously need a keeper. I'm still a part-time keeper, so I'd rather be in the field a little bit. We've got someone in mind, thankfully. But yeah, I think, and also we might take a punt on a couple of young players. And the kids coming through in the 19s showed they've got absolutely no fear. So you never know, we could end up with one or two under 19 players that we could give some opportunities to and see them fly, because I think the next generation, it's scary how good they are and how quick they find their feet in this game.
Terrific to talk, Tammy. You sound like you're very pleased with what's happened so far. We'll catch you soon. Just one quick question to you, though. What Tammy was saying there about a player coming in, not just doing her role and saying, right, see you next time for training, hangs around, brings their experience to the youngsters. Very important when you're building something.
And especially where the women's game is at the moment. So because, you heard Danny Gibson there talking to us about how excited she is to carry on the journey. And you imagine having Heather Knight in the dressing room with you, passing on all the knowledge. So you're really going to have, I mentioned Sophia Ismail there. You're really going to have both ends of the spectrum. You're going to have world-class players that have played in World Cup finals and young teenage girls playing in front of massive audiences and being able to handle that pressure. And then you throw in social media on top of that. A lot of these young women are on social media, and how you cope with what follows if you have a bad day, a bad evening, all that experience is going to be vital.
Right, well, that's the women's draft done for now. They've still got 7 picks each, but that will happen later on in the year in the open market. Coming up next, it's the men's turn.
That's beautifully put away. That's the ability of Babar Azam. That's such a good shot.
Finch gets another century.
Oh, out! What a beauty! He's on absolute fire.
New Zealand have struck. Bolt it is.
Massive wicket for Trent Bolton. Willie's figures are even better now.
Show the world what it means to be a fan at fanatics.co.uk. A collection of officially licensed fan gear. Fanatics.co.uk. Officially licensed everything.
It's very simple. English cricket. Gravel Yes! The gravel axe, please.
The UK's fastest 5G network. 3.
Did you know that Booking.com does flights too?
You mean you can find a huge selection of flights along with a huge selection of accommodation?
Yeah, but sorry, that's my phone. Can you use filters on that? Yeah, but can I have my phone back?
No, just...
Book flights, trips, and everything in between at Booking.com. Booking.com. Booking.yeah.
You struggled with credit in the past? Then you've come to the right place. Everyday Loans. Representative APR 99.9%.
Okay, shortly we will be starting the men's draft of this side of the 100. Of course, we've just done the women's. We will be getting that started in due course. 30 spots up for grabs. The top bracket is 125 and 7 of those are available. So the first game I should let you know about starts on August the 1st. It's defending men's champions Trent Rockets against the Southern Brave, and of course it is a double header. So that's August 1, 2:30 Sky Sports Cricket. Okay, as I was saying, there are 30 spots available for the men's side of the 100. They will also eventually have 2 wildcard picks. 2 extra spots will become available during the summer. That will be sorted out and announced sometime around quarter-final time for the T20 Blast. Again, Nas, all eyes on Welsh Fire. They've sort of ripped it up and they've got to start again.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said earlier, I think they need runs on the board. It's not always an easy place to bat in white ball cricket, Cardiff. So, Ben Duckett has said no to there. They got a new coach in Mike Hussey, who I've always found a very smart cricketer, a very smart man. So I think he'll do a good job there. Some of the it's for this in the men's, it's different from the women's. I think for most of the men's, it's just filling in the gaps. You're looking at 3, maybe 4 spots available. So each side will be thinking, right, what do we need? Is it a wicket keeper? You know, for example, Southern Brave last year, why did they go from winning it to not doing so well? Well, they had injuries in their bowling. Tamal Mills, who we've got here, got injured. Chris Jordan got injured. Jofra Archer didn't play. If they all play, then you may need a batter. So you presume your bowlers are fit, and I reckon there's a lot of batting spots available in the men's draft.
And keeping is a key component of this as well. And Ben Foakes has thrown his hat in the ring as well.
He has, and we've always felt, if you look at great white ball sides, going back all the way to Gloucestershire and Jack Russell, if you have a good keeper. Having said that, the Trent Rockets got by. They had, you know, Kola Cadmore, and then they had Moores. They didn't. That's a base they may think of. There's quite a few sides here that may think, are we going to go for a batter who can keep, or are we going to go for a front-line keeper like Foakes, who just offers a bit with the bat? We will see.
Well, let's find out. Back to Mission Control. Hannah's got a new guest, a special guest.
Yeah, I certainly have. We had to send Charles for a lie down after the women's draft. He was utterly exhausted. We've got Tamal Mills with us instead. We're going to get the draft started, and then we'll have a bit of a chat, Tamal, and we'll put 100 seconds on the clock for Welsh Fire in the £125,000 bracket. So the draft is underway. Tamal, let's talk about Welsh Fire. Much like in the women's draft as well, they have got a lot of spots to fill. What will be the priority for them, do you think?
They might look to get a captain in early. I'm not sure, looking at their squad, who they think they're going to lead. Their new squad, they've got a new coach, Mike Hussey, who I spent time with in the T20 World Cup, who's coming over as head coach. Great guy, one of the legends of the game. So I'm sure everybody that ends up at Welsh Fire will enjoy working under him. So they might look to get a captain on board. But as you say, they've got a lot of holes to fill. They've got themselves some bowling in, David Payne and Jake Paul and George Scrimshaw. So they've got 3 frontline bowlers in already, so that's, I guess, a nice little safety blanket to have. So they might look to target some batters early as well. Well,
we saw with Welsh Fire in the women's draft, they know how to use the right to match, and they've done it already. Which means they have picked a player with their first pick that another team has the right to pick up. So tactically, straight away, they're either forcing someone to use one of their picks, which benefits them further on. It's fascinating, isn't it, how this sort of tactical part of the draft has unfolded, and that Welsh Fire, with the rebuild in motion for both their teams, are very happy to use it.
Yeah, so I think you already saw that teams trying to force the hand of the other sides. I think this is a Southern Brave pick. They've tried to take Tim David from us, so we've obviously had him back, which is great for us. It kind of forces, maybe changes our tactics in the second half of this first round as well, so fair play to them. And yeah, there's a lot of tactics going on. There's been a lot of conversations behind the scenes as well, trying to figure out who's going to take who. So yeah, the mind games have started already. Yeah, the mind games have started. The right to match has been exercised by Southern Brave, so Tim David is going back. And what does he bring to the team? How happy are you to have him back in the side? Yeah, look, he's obviously one of the biggest hitters in world cricket. Played for us last year, so some familiarity again. So he plays really well. He plays all around the world. In the IPL, he's going to be with the Mumbai Indians again now. Plays in the Big Bash, the PSL. So he's well versed in T20 cricket. He's very confident. He bowls some offies as well. So yes, I'm glad to have Big Tim back with us. You need some batters, don't you? I think we're going to look to get a few batters. We've done really well. We retained the majority of our bowlers, and from last year we've got Rehan Ahmed, the brilliant young spinner as well. So yeah, I think we'll look to just maybe complement with a couple of batters tonight. Well, Welsh Fire are doing exactly what they did in the start of the women's draft, because they've selected another player who has got a right to match option on another team. We're just waiting to hear who that is. But when you look at the Welsh Fire, and they've only retained 5 players plus Johnny Bairstow, their centrally contracted player. Ben Duckett, as we mentioned, has left and has sort of said to Mike Hussey, please don't right to match me. Doesn't want them to use the right to match on him. But of those 8 draft spots they've got to fill, when you look at how they've struggled with the bat at their home ground, it's a difficult place to play, isn't it, Sophia Gardens? So what do you need from batters at that ground? Yeah, it can be. I think you've got to look to be aggressive. You've got to look to either manipulate the field with your ramps and your reverses, or you look to go straight and look down the ground really hard. So you look for power hitters there. It can be a bit bigger, squarer, so it can favour the bowlers in that regard. So you've got to have, either look for big, strong players that can target straight, or guys that are innovative and can hit it behind the wicket. So Welsh Fire have selected Tom Abel. He's a captaincy option for them, isn't he? Yeah, he is kind of well regarded, highly regarded. Been playing for the England Lions. Unfortunately, got injured recently, so missed out on his international selection in Bangladesh. So yeah, he, as mentioned, they might be looking for a captaincy option. And he could be a shout for them.
Okay, we have got another right to match in progress as well. So we're just checking the details of that as it stands. As we move through this draft, what's it like from a player's perspective? I know you're sat here quite comfortably. You know where you're playing your cricket come August. But from a player's perspective, how stressful can it be not knowing where you're going to have to be based out of for a month of the summer? Or are you used to it?
Yeah, I've tried to... So I remember looking back the first year of the draft, way back when, 3 odd years ago, when you don't know how it's going to go and you are nervous. I've been in auctions and in drafts all around the world over the last few years, and even how confident you might be, OK, I'm going to get picked, you generally have no idea where you're going to get picked, who you're going to go to. So it can be a bit nerve-wracking, and you always have places, OK, I'd like to go there, I'd like to go there. But ultimately, you just want to play and you want to be part of a tournament like this.
Southern Brave have also just selected Louis Deploy. Another middle-order batter. You said you wanted some batters in this one.
Yeah, and I've been speaking to the guys at Southern Brave over the last couple of days, and he was one of the players I know that they were targeting. So Stephen Fleming's our new head coach, and Louis Deploy played for Fleming in the recent South Africa SAT20, so some familiarity there. He plays his cricket for Derbyshire. He used to play for Welsh Fire, so I know he's a very talented batter, and again, glad to have him on board.
Birmingham Phoenix now on the clock as well. A right to match is once again in progress. It's interesting because we didn't think we'd see as much right to match action from the men's teams, but they're throwing out the rule book and not listening to anything we say over in here. The Phoenix, they play a really aggressive style of cricket with the bat, don't they? What do they need when they look to build on last year? They won 5, lost 3.
Yeah, so I think it's worst kept secret who the Birmingham Phoenix are going to take now. Duckett's made himself pretty clear that he's gone. It's where he wanted to play his cricket. So he's obviously Duckett's he's made a great resurgence to come back into the England side in all formats of the game, and he's a very talented player, very good against spin, very good at his sweeps, reverse sweeps. So I'm sure a lot of teams would have coveted him, and I'm sure he's going to be very happy over at Edgbaston.
Yeah, he's got his wish, hasn't he? London Spirit as well. Just hearing, I believe, have picked Mitchell Marsh, an international player. What does he bring to their side?
He's a great man. I played with him in the Big Bash for the Perth Scorchers. Genuine all-rounder, probably bats at number 3, and also can bowl more than handy, kind of fast medium. He's a great guy to have the change room, which is important when you spend a month of time together. And he's an exceptional batter. He's coming off some good form in the recent Australia versus India ODI series as well. So he's coming in good nick.
Okay, the Trent Rockets have picked Tom Kohler-Cadmore. Top order batter as well. I mean, when you look at what this Trent Rockets team need, I mean, they haven't got many spaces actually. They're kind of keeping a very consistent team together. What does he add?
Yeah, he's a keeping option as well. They needed a wicket keeper. Trent Rockets. He played for the Trent Rockets last year. He's had a brilliant winter. He's been whacking it. He's been playing in the T10, the ILT20, the PSL, the BPL. He's been playing in all the leagues around the world, and he's in really good form. So some familiarity there, both from a team and playing at the ground. And he's in great form on the back of this winter. He's just made the move down to Somerset from Yorkshire, so he's certainly getting a few clubs under his belt already.
Yeah, he's someone we thought they might target as well. So some of the predictions are perhaps coming good. Ben Duckett as well, like we mentioned, going to Birmingham Phoenix, got his wish. Welsh Fire are back on the clock. Is there anyone that you really were expecting to go in these very early selections that hasn't come off the board yet?
I'm not sure. We haven't seen too many overseas players so far. We might see Welsh Fire, so they need 3 overseas players, so they might make a move now. So we haven't seen the guys obviously wanting to get local players, but we see Dave Willey's been picked, obviously an international calibre player, offers with the bat, ball in the field. Again, a possible leadership option as well. He's on lots of captaincy in T20 cricket. So yeah, I think Dave's a really good pick at 125.
Okay, well, we're up and running with that 125 bracket. It's busy, isn't it? It's quick. It happens to you fast. Mordy.
It's busy, it's quick. You guys are doing fantastically well, particularly with these right-to-match cards flying around. So it sounds like Ben Duckett, who we're going to hear from shortly, has got his wish. He will be going to Birmingham Phoenix from Welsh Fire. So Tom Abel goes to Welsh Fire, potentially captaincy material, as Tumar was saying there. David Willey as well as another top pick at 125. Tim David with the right to match. Louis Deploy played a bit in the SAT20. Mitch Marsh is an interesting one. How much availability will there be for Australian cricketers throughout the 100? And Tom Kohler-Cadmore, who stands out, Nas?
Well, I think what stands out is the sort of link-up between coaches and players. Mitch Marsh, Australian. Obviously, Trevor Bayliss at the London Spirit, Australian. Wants Mitch Marsh there. Availability of the Australians...
50-50?
50-50, depending on when the tour of South Africa is. Stephen Fleming, who's taken over at the Southern Brave from Mahela Jayawardene. He's linked up with Louis Deploy, who he had at the SAT20. Tim David going back there. David Willey, I think, is an excellent signing. He can bat in any position, really. Obviously, swings the new ball. Tom Abel, I think, is a really good cricketer. Kola Cadmore has been brilliant in the last year, brilliant in the PSL, and he is a wicket-keeping option. It'll be interesting to see if they have another wicket-keeper in their squad. But the highlight for me there, Ben Duckett. Ben Duckett, you know, if you're talking about the stock of a cricketer has risen in the last year, Ben Duckett's stock has risen, with probably Harry Brook as much as anyone. Left-hand, right-hand combination with Will Smeed at the top of the order, possibly, if that's where he bats. That's a dangerous combination.
Mentioned Ben Duckett. He joins us now, I'm delighted to say. Congratulations, Ben. Thank you for joining us. You've got what you wanted. You're off to Birmingham. A bit of horse trading going on behind the scenes from the coaches and indeed yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, really happy with that. Had conversations in the past few months, but until it's sorted, you just never know with a draft.
Easy conversations, pleasant conversations, all well and good?
Yeah, obviously, difficult leaving a side that I've played for the past 2 years, and had some great times with some great people. But for me personally, it just felt like it was time to kind of have a fresh start. Only winning a couple of games in 2 years, I do wish them all the best, and I hope they get things, on track this year. But, 3 years in a career is quite a long time, and Birmingham's a great team and a great ground to play at, so I'm really looking forward to it.
I was going to say, what attracted you to Birmingham?
Obviously spent a bit of time with Mo this winter. He's a great captain. I played under him in the Pakistan series at the start. They seem to have a great team just from playing against them. Really good balance of the side, and obviously some explosive batters. I'll try and play the anchor and get them on strike.
You've had quite some winter. How's it been?
Yeah, it's been amazing. It feels pretty long and kind of straight into the swing of things now with Notts, but kind of no time to really reflect on it. But really enjoyed obviously representing England again, and playing in that test team was incredible. But as I say, it's kind of straight into the summer now.
And a busy summer as well. Obviously the Ashes, where you'll probably be at the top of the order, then the 100, then possibly even a World Cup in India. From where you were to where you are now, you must really be thinking, I've got to cash in now.
Yeah, it's obviously a really exciting summer. 12 months ago, I was kind of, nowhere near playing international cricket. So to even think about potentially playing in an Ashes this summer, with the World Cup coming to the end of the year, it's exciting times for English cricket. And for me personally, I'm just trying to kind of continue the form I've had recently. Take things one step at a time. First of all, got 6 games for Notts at the start of the season to try and start well and take that form throughout the summer.
Right, finally, Ben, before we let you go, you've got your new side, you've got your wish, you're going to be playing alongside your mate Moeen Ali. What other areas do you need to cover then in the remaining draft picks that you've got, would you say, for Birmingham?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was obviously just, it's hard in the weeks building up when you don't actually know where you're going to be. So, as I said, it seems like the balance of the side is really good. I think there's a couple of picks a bit lower down, so it depends on availability and what players go in this top half of the draft. But, I'll leave that to the specialists.
Ben, great to speak to you. Thanks very much indeed. We'll see you in the summer. Congratulations on your winter. It's been great to watch you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Right, we can head now to the next part of the men's draft, which is the £100,000 region. And I'm just looking down some of the names that are down there. And overseas, there's some big overseas in this spot. Shaheen Shah Afridi, Bar Razam, Trent Bolt, DJ Bravo. What's going to happen, Hannah?
If only we knew, Ian. Wouldn't that make our lives so much easier? The clock is once again rolling. 100 seconds on the clock for Welsh Fire, who've got the first pick again in this 100k bracket. We just heard Ian talking about some of the big names that are likely to go, the big overseas players that are likely to go early on in this draft. And it sounds as though the Welsh Fire have just done exactly that. Shaheen Afridi, a bowler for them. They're filling up those needs, aren't they, Welsh Fire? What does Afridi bring to them?
Yeah, he's box office. If anybody watched the PSL just now, you'll see he obviously started to offer a little bit with a bat as well, coming in the middle order. But with the ball, he's a real wicket taker. He swings the new ball at good pace. He bowls aggressively. He's got great skills. He's got a great Yorker as well. Pakistani availability maybe not the best, but maybe a sign for the future as well.
And this is a signing that you predicted would happen, not necessarily to this team, but in this bracket. Reece Topley is going to the Northern Superchargers, and lots of these teams would have had an eye on him.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, with Ollie Stone as well, there's a couple of England international fast bowlers available. Toppers has had a great 12 months. Again, left armour, swings the new ball. He's off to the IPL just now, and we've got another. There you go, Ollie Stone to the London Spirit. Bowls really good pace, bowls in and around 90 mile an hour, bowls aggressively. Hasn't played in the 100 for the last couple of years due to injuries, but if he's fit and firing this summer, he'll be box office at Lords, I'm sure.
We are flying through these 100k picks. It is a snake draft, as we mentioned, same for the women's draft. So Manchester Originals have now got 2 back-to-back picks, and they've actually just picked Laurie Evans.
Yeah, it's a great story. So, Laurie's somebody I know well. He's obviously been out of the game for the last kind of 7-8 months while he's had a few legal issues to deal with, but it's great to see he's been reinstated and he's been given an opportunity. He's going to play in the Blast back this summer for Surrey, and now he's going back to Manchester where he ended up captaining when Josh Buttler got injured last year. So it's a great story for Laurie, you know, somebody I know well. I'm really pleased that he's not only kind of come back in to play cricket, but he's come straight back into the 100 and he's got himself a really good contract.
Manchester Originals have got another spot open at that 100k bracket. With the way their team is starting to shape up, who do you expect them to be looking at, or what role do you expect them to be looking to fill with this next big pick?
You put me on the spot there. It's tricky, but
who would you pick?
Again, maybe an overseas batter. I think they've still got an overseas spot available. They're pretty strong though, with Josh Buttler, Phil Salt, Laurie Evans kind of at the top. They've got Hasaranga already, who's a brilliant player. I played with him already this winter. Great character as well, but one of the best leg spinners in the world. They've already kept Josh Little as well. He bowls some good pace, left arm as well. So Manchester have got a strong squad, but obviously not as strong as my Southern Brave squad, I don't think.
I love that loyalty at all times. They haven't got long left on the clock. They've breached the 30-second mark, and it sounds as though they've just made the pick behind me as well. It's Ashton Turner, an overseas player, like you suggested they might do. A good, solid pick for them.
Yeah, again, somebody I know well. Was captain for me at that Perth Scorcher side. Won back-to-back Big Bash trophies just now for the Perth Scorchers. He's a middle-order batter, bowls some tidy, off-spin as well. So Ashton Turner is a great selection in my opinion.
And we're wrapping up the £100,000 section of the men's draft with Tom Banton going to the Northern Superchargers, a keeper that, again, a lot of these teams would have had their eye on.
Yeah, and as Nas said, teams looking at keepers. Bants definitely offers that. Played for the Welsh Fire last year, didn't have his best year, but he's still a quality player. Bangs it around for Somerset down in Taunton. So, I think that's a nice pick up as well.
It was a short round, that one, wasn't it? Those teams knew exactly who they wanted. So some of the big overseas players coming off the board as we crack on. £100,000 is now filled for all these teams.
Thank you, Tamal. Thank you, Hannah. So in that round, Shaheen Shah Afridi, Reece Topley, Tom Banton, who can keep for the Northern Superchargers, Ollie Stone, Ashton Turner, Australian, but probably will be around because he's not really involved in the setup, and Laurie Evans. That's an interesting one because he has something hanging over his head. He might be suspended. Shaheen Shah Afridi, though, quickly, Nas. Box office for Welsh Fire.
Absolutely. I said last year the Welsh Fire hadn't got many Welsh or much fire. Well, they got a bit of fire now. I don't think Shaheen's Welsh, but listen, he's just won the PSL. He's worked on his batting. He's smashing it out of the ground. He's a serious bowler, new ball bowler. Shaheen Shah Afridi in the 100, box office.
They made Waqar Younis an honorary Welshman. They'll do the same for Shaheen Shah Afridi. We're back with more from the draft. 75k is next.
is whether they rely, Jason Roy and Sam Billings in the power play last year didn't really strike it off, but Jason Roy's found his form since, so whether they need another batter or a death bowler with the injury to Tom Curran, he's got a stress fracture, whether they want to cover that base further down the line.
Right, we can go and join Charles Dagley, who's got a special guest. Who are you with?
Yeah, it is. It's been breathless stuff as it was in the first draft, but sat here relaxing on his comfortable seats and cushions is Jamie Overton, one of the biggest names. And we're going to call this the Jamie Overton bracket, which is starting up in very, very short space of time. 75,000 alongside you in that one, who's already been selected by the Manchester Originals, Lewis Gregory, Liam Dawson, Adam Milne and Sam Billings. What have you made so far, Jamie? Firstly, thanks for coming, but what have you made so far of the breathless nature to the start of this draft?
Yeah, it's been good. Obviously, a few big names come out, and then there's a few big names missing as well. So, obviously, Baba's not been picked up, and I don't think he can be picked up again now. So,
did that surprise you?
Yeah, a little bit. He's obviously a world-class player, so it's nice not to be having to bowl to him. But there's obviously some still world-class players there, and you're still going to have to try and bowl them and try and get them out.
The first selection was Tom Abel, Lias Deploy coming in, Ben Duckett, Mitchell Marson, Tom Kohler-Cadmore. What a winter he's had, and 125,000 to shore up the Trent Rockets. You've got two new teammates in Laurie Evans and Ashton Turner. What have you made of those?
Yeah, great signings. Obviously, played with Laurie at Surrey. He's obviously a great player, and obviously he's had a bit of turbulent time in the last sort of 6-7 months. But it's great to have him back, and obviously Ashton Turner was there last year as well, and he's obviously captain of, I think, the Perth Scorchers as well. So having that relationship with Simon Katic, head coach, and having them both back, it's great for the side.
You've obviously got a firepower up front with Phil Salt and Josh Butler. Was that an area, do you think, of need?
I think, well, it's the way the modern game's going. Having those two at the top is great for us. Obviously, I've missed out the last 2 years and not been playing with them, but watching from the sidelines, they've both done very well for us. But
that middle order, Laurie Evans and Ashton Turner coming definitely in, would you say that was something that those selections have filled that need?
Yeah, I think so. I think we needed some sort of 4 or 5 batters, and those two guys fill that slot, and then we've got the finishers to come down lower order, like Paul Walter last year was phenomenal for us, and hopefully he can do that again this year.
Michael Bracewell has just been selected for the Northern Superchargers, 75,000, the first in this particular bracket, so the Southern Brave are up next. Obviously, Simon Katic, the head coach. Do you actually have any kind of input into anything that they're thinking? You turn around to them and say, well, we could do with X or we could do with Y?
To be honest, no, not really, because I've not been involved the last couple of years. It's sort of, you just sort of go with where you get put. I spoke to Kat every now and again over the last couple of years, just trying to keep in contact, just to see what's going on and how the boys are going. And from last year, they got on a massive run towards the end of the competition, and they got to the final. Unfortunately, not to win, but they played really well.
Devon Conway and Glenn Phillips have just been picked up by the Southern Brave and the Welsh Fire. There's some serious players you're going to have to bowl at this year.
Yeah, there is. Well, for me, I've not bowled a massive amount the last couple of years in T20s, but I'm always there and thereabouts, and hopefully, I can take a few wickets.
And you yourself had a really good T20, albeit losing in the quarter-final of the Vitality Blast, but, had a huge impact for Surrey last year.
Yeah, exactly. I think my sort of role in the last couple of years has changed. I've been more of a batter that comes in the end and tries to finish off games, and I think teams nowadays want those sort of guys, and the way I've done the last couple of years, that's what I've done. And with the odd over of my bowling as well is a handy contribution.
Look, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Good luck this year with the Manchester Originals. The Welsh Fire are on the clock, 40 seconds for their next selection in the next bracket as well. Let's head down to Mission Control where Hannah is.
Thanks, Charles. Yeah, they've actually just picked Harris Ralph with that £60,000 pick, the Welsh Fire. Tomorrow, let's just reflect ever so briefly, though, on the £75,000 bracket, because it went all New Zealand's way. Glenn Phillips, Devon Conway is going back to join you at Southern Brave, and Michael Bracewell as well. A huge part of this comes down to availability, doesn't it? And the New Zealand players, they want to be over here for the ODIs and T20s in September. Just how much of a factor is it for these teams looking at that availability?
Yeah, you've got to toss up whether you maybe get a big name star who's only available for 4 games or so, or you go for maybe a lesser known name who you know is going to be available for the whole competition. And you get the continuity with that, you get the consistency, you're not having to chop and change the formula of your side. So yeah, as you saw in the 75 £100,000 bracket. You've got 3 Kiwi players going in a row. So we're now quickly into the £60,000 as well.
Yeah, we're 2/3 of the way through it already, actually. Henrik Larsson has gone to the Oval Invincibles. It's a snake, so the Invincibles are straight back on the clock. So busy times wherever they are. You can see the conversations going on over in that top corner as well at the moment. Just in terms of Devon Conway, he was at Southern Brave back in year 1 of the 100. How valuable is he to this team, especially when he's on song and on form?
Yeah, again, somebody that our head coach Stephen Fleming knows really well from at CSK. They're together at the IPL. So, again, the continuity there. Dev played for us in year 1, so he knows the ground, he knows the dimensions, and he's a world-class batter in all formats of the game. On Welsh Fire as well, they've gone with Haris Rauf to pair with Shaheen Afridi. That's a really exciting pair. Hopefully I won't be batting against that. But that gives them an X factor and a point of difference for sure.
And Ross Whiteley going to the Oval Invincibles as well. Just on that Welsh Fire, are you liking the look of how they're rebuilding this squad so far?
Yeah, look, it's a nice position. I'm sure for Mike Hussey and the guys over in Cardiff, it's a nice position to be in. You've got a pretty blank slate to go with. If you can let the draft come to you a little bit. They might have some availability issues with the Pakistani guys, but I'm sure they'll have backup plans in place with that to replace them as the tournament goes on. But yeah, it's knowing that you've got all these picks to restart your team again, as you can see on screen. They've got a really good bowling nucleus with Ralph, Payne, Ball and Shaheen Afridi. So I think they'll be happy with their work so far.
It's filling up, isn't it, this whole bracket? We're going to get the £50,000 bracket underway as well. Once again, it's starting with Welsh Fire. They've still got 3 picks. And when you look at the likes of your team, Southern Brave and Manchester Originals as well, they've just got the 1 pick remaining. These teams are very much taking shape. Is there anyone that was available that has surprised you that they haven't been picked up?
Maybe someone like Riley Russo's done really well for South Africa. He's been brilliant in the PSL. He's been playing again all around the world. So it'll be interesting to see if a team fancies picking him up, or if they go for maybe another overseas players. Maybe a few spinners come into play again. Welsh Fire have still got an overseas spot available, so they might look to go overseas again as we speak. But and there we go. Van der Merwe, left-arm spinner, plays for Somerset. He said he was brilliant in the SAT20 competition just now. So he's a very experienced player. Some nous and spin, can also play a part at Cardiff as well.
Birmingham Phoenix have just taken Jamie Smith at keeper as well. We're rattling through these. Is there any really good value players you think in the latter stages of this draft?
I think everybody's a potential value pick. I think
you think everyone should be paid more. You've got to look after your colleagues.
Exactly, but Jamie Smith's one of the kind of young up-and-coming players. I think he's been on good form with the England Lions this winter. Plays his cricket at Surrey, so obviously keepers are few and far between, and they have that little premium on at the moment. And if you can get a good young one, then they're worth the weight in gold sometimes.
Manchester Originals are back on the clock. They've got just about a minute remaining as well on this pick. The last pick in the 50,000k bracket. In terms of the players, I know last year you didn't get to play much of the 100 due to that toe injury. But what's the feeling like about this tournament, about how it's grown and playing alongside the women as well and having that real team identity for both men and women?
Yeah, it's brilliant. So my team, Southern Brave, based down in Southampton, we have the hotel on site where both the men and the women are, and there was a real continuity. Like, we have our rooms overlooking the ground, so we'd watch the girls play prior, then we go and sit on the stands and wait for our time to warm up, and then afterwards we had a really good setup, because after the game, we could all get together, both the men's and the women's side, have a drink, have some food, because we're all based on site. So in terms of I can't speak for the other teams, but from the Southern Braves point of view, we had really good continuity and camaraderie between the two groups. And that first year we won, and the girls lost in the final, unfortunately. Obviously didn't go as well for our second year, but the girls have done really well from there as well. So it's been really well received. Obviously, you don't need to talk about how well the crowds have grown, and especially for the girls' game, it's been brilliant.
Josh Tongue has been selected as well by the Manchester Originals with their final pick of the draft. That concludes the £50,000 bracket. And Ian, we've not got too many picks remaining, have we? This whole bracket is really filling up as we head into the 40k and 30k brackets as well.
Yeah, absolutely right, Hannah. Thank you very much. What's taken your eye there? You've come a bit of Mystic Nass, haven't you, with like the Michael Bracewell situation and Devon Conway and all these power hitters that Welsh Fire need, and
that was
Phillips
my
comes out.
favourite round of the whole evening, because it just proved me right, to be honest. Simple as that. It's all about me. Pace like fire for the Welsh Fire. Haris Rauf joins Shaheen Shah Afridi. Then you throw in a bit of Glenn Phillips as well. I mean, he does everything. He keeps, he bowls, he smashes it out of the ground. He's brilliant in the field. They are looking much, much stronger. Roelof van der Merwe, when you want to turn a side round, you speak to anyone down at Somerset, the character in van der Merwe. They have made some good selections today. Bracewell is excellent. Conway is excellent. There have been some really, really good choices in that round. There's some good cricketers there.
Right, we're nearly done, but there's a few little picks to just be sorted out, and we'll do that when we come back, review both the men's draft and what we've seen earlier from the women's draft. Well, there's been a lot to digest, but we're nearly through with the men's side of the draft for this summer's 100. It's been, well, breathless stuff at times, and we've had some quite high-profile names have come in, and some that haven't actually made the cut. Great to see Shaheen Shah, Afridi and Haris Rauf with a bit of pace going down to Welsh Fire, who needed a lot of influx of players because they didn't retain very many at all. Just looking down, who still needs things, maybe some pace needed. Oval Invincibles, Taskin Ahmed could be a bargain because he has no reserve, and they have one pick left, Oval at 40. Right, Charles Dagnall, who you got now?
Yes, Saki Mahmood is alongside me. A couple of picks for the Oval Invincibles. Heinrich Klaasen and Ross Whiteley. Some big hitting in the middle order. Like those picks?
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously we've got a lot of batters up the top, so, you know, we needed a couple of finishes in the middle order, and we got two good picks there.
Interesting. I was actually just watching you before, and when the selections were being made, there was a couple of winces going, oh, would have loved him. Particularly, I think Haris Rauf was one of them. Did you have in your mind an idea of who you'd like selected?
I think Haris Rauf was one of the guys we were interested in. We've obviously got good local seamers, but I think we're probably one short there in case somebody went down. So Harris, I think we were interested in, and Welsh just got there before we did.
It's bring your hard hats when you play against the Welsh Fire with Shaheen Shah Afridi and Harris Ralph, and you've got 3 English seamers in there as well as David Willey too. So they've selected well, plenty of pace there. You do have 1 selection left. You do have 1 overseas player still to select. Are you expecting them to go bowler?
I'd imagine so, yeah. We've got good local seamers, but if one goes down, then obviously we don't have the cover for that. So I'd imagine we'd go for a seamer, yeah.
Yeah, the next round of the draft, the 40k bracket, has just started. The Northern Superchargers are on the clock. Just finally, there's a lot of, interestingly, as Stevie Eskenazi, we were just speaking off air about Stevie Eskenazi and Sam Hain, who have got great records in the Blast. Eskenazi has been picked up by the Welsh Fire with the Superchargers on the clock. And it's a real value pick when you think about the amount of runs. I think highest average, highest strike rates in the last couple of years of the Blast.
Yeah, I saw those numbers earlier in the week, and someone like him who just misses out the last few years, he's just shown how consistent a performer he is. So it's obviously nice for him. I imagine he's sat at home probably watching this, so it's nice for him to get picked up and rightly deserved.
And Baz de Leede has gone to the Northern Superchargers. So we'll keep you right across the back end of this draft, and who better to do it than Hannah and Tamal.
Thanks very much, Charles. Tamal, you were just talking like Daggers was as well about Stephen Eskenazi and what a great player he could be for the Welsh Fire. And when you look at the way they have built this team as well, Tom Abel going in there, David Willey, Shaheen Afridi, Glenn Phillips, they've really putting together a nice little roster here, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're doing really well. And just a word on Eskenazi, he's probably been really hard done by to not have played in the 100 for the first 2 iterations of it. He's been one of, if not the leading run scorer in the Blast year after year. I play against him a lot in the South Group. He's playing for Middlesex. He's difficult to bowl at. So it's great to see him get the recognition tonight in the draft.
Yeah, Northern Superchargers as well, taking Baz de Leede as well. You've got the Durham link with him there.
Yeah, he's a domestic player, but he plays international cricket for Holland. He was playing in the World Cup. He got a brilliant shiner on his face. He got hit one back at him, which is never nice. But all-rounder, so offers with the bat and the ball. And as you say, he's just made the move over to Durham, so a link to the Northern Superchargers.
Yeah, the Birmingham Phoenix are on the clock as well. Of course, Ben Duckett has already joined them this evening, as has, that's a big name signing for them. Oval Invincibles have made their pick too, but Birmingham Phoenix currently on the clock. Then Trent Rockets have got back-to-back picks in this 40k bracket, and I think we're just hearing who Birmingham Phoenix have selected, and it is Miles Hammond, a great batting option for them.
Yeah, and he's played for the Birmingham Phoenix for the last couple of years, plays county cricket for Gloucestershire, can bat up and down the order, so a bit of familiarity there again.
Okay, well, as Trent Rockets get on the clock, let's head back to Daggers, because he's got a special guest with him once again.
Yeah, Darren Milan alongside of me whilst the Trent Rockets are picking. So in this 40k bracket, you've already picked Tom Kohler-Cadmore up for 125,000. Who do you want?
Well, I think we need seamers. I think that's going to be one of the picks at least. We'll be looking at a fast bowler. We've got 3 guys there. Obviously Lewis as well. So I think if we can add a little bit of depth there with our seam bowling, I think that would strengthen our squad quite a lot.
I was expecting a real sort of grandstand kind of affair with the Trent Rockets selecting someone and you giving us your instant reaction, but there is a right to match in progress as we speak at the moment, so we'll let you know what that is and when in a few moments' time. Just to quickly on Tom Kohler-Cadmore, selection that you've picked up. He's had a fabulous winter, yourself and Alex Hales up front. You know, it was a wonderful time for the Trent Rockets last year, and he just seems to have strengthened in a big way.
Yeah, we did fantastically well by winning, and TKC was part of that. He had a really good winter. Doesn't really make sense that he's wasn't retained in the first place to get picked up at 125. So like ultimately we needed a wicket keeper in our squad. If you look down the order, we haven't had one. So it's a good buy in the end to get someone who can bat in your top 5 and keep wicket.
You said about bowlers. Brad Wheel has just been selected by the Trent Rockets, and I believe Sam Hain as well has been picked up. Someone who we were just chatting to. So you like those selections?
Yeah, they strengthen our team in a lot of different ways. To have an extra fast bowler in there, Brad Wheel's been fantastic when he's played before. Very good at the depth. He gives, especially at Trent Bridge, where it's quite hard to bowl. So bringing someone who knows what they're doing there is quite handy. And then to have Sam Hain as another batter who scores a lot of runs when he does play is fantastic as well.
All right, thanks so much for your time. Let's head straight back to Hannah and Tamal.
Thanks very much. We are on tenterhooks over here, awaiting the final 2 picks from this 100 draft. Welsh Fire back on the clock with their final pick. Just to bring you up to date as well on Trent Rocket selecting Sam Hain. Welsh Fire did have the right to match Sam Hain. They elected not to, so that suggests, Samar, they had a very clear idea, perhaps, of who they wanted to take in this last selection for them.
Yeah, and Sam Hain's a very good player. He's been playing for the Brisbane Heat in the Big Bash, so he's been playing some high-level cricket overseas this winter. So it'll be interesting to see. I've gone for Dan Douthwaite, so he plays for Glamorgan, so I've got a Welsh player playing for Glamorgan at the Welsh Fire. So again, I keep saying the word continuity. Teams are going for players that they know or that there's clear links in between. Douthwaite's an all-rounder, kind of hits a big ball and can also bowl good pace as well.
We like to see Welsh players going to Welsh Fire. It'll make NASA very happy. Michael Pepper is the final selection of this men's 100 draft. He's going to London Spirit, a keeper as well. And it's important to really fill out the strength in depth, isn't it, with these latter picks?
Yeah, Michael Pepper had a really good year last year for Essex. Again, plays in the South group with myself. Very strong player of spin with his sweeps, reverse sweeps. Played a few games for the Northern Superchargers last year, so makes a move down to London for the Spirit this year.
Well, that concludes the draft from Mission Control. Good job, Dream Team. Well done. Nicely managed. Tamal, great stuff as well. We got everyone home safely. That was our mission.
Good job, Dream Team. Good job, Hannah Daggers, and thanks to Tumal, because that was a lot of information to take in, but you covered that absolutely brilliantly. Right, so this part of the draft is done. Remember, it's not the final squads for the men's or the women's, for that matter, 100 squads, because the men have 2 wildcard picks still to add to each side as we go through the summer. That will be announced around quarter-finals time of the T20 Blast, and there are 7 per side for the women to add to their squads. We'll come on to that in just a minute. Lot to digest there, Nas, but how pleased, let's start where we began with Welsh Fire. How pleased do you think they will be? Because they basically restructured their squad.
Yeah, very, very pleased. I mean, obviously the whole point of doing the draft this way, where you have the first pick and you get the extra chances and you get rid of some of your players, is you can start again, and I think they've done that very well. They've got pace in there, they've got power hitting in there, they've got a bit of character in there, and even with their last pick, they got a bit of Welsh in there as well. I'm glad that someone picked up Pepper so we can have our salt and pepper gag at some stage in the tournament. They're still the 2 best sides there are Southern Brave. If Jofra Archer is fit, if Tamal Mills is fit, if Chris Jordan is fit, and, you know, that is a serious bowling attack. Vince up front with Conway, Tim David gives them hitting potential, and Trent Rockets, who won it last year. We don't have to talk about them too much because they've only had, 3 selections, so they're still a very strong side. But the biggest winners today in the men's side, definitely the Welsh Fire.
And some pace now at the Oval.
Yeah,
one man in particular.
Yeah, I'll try and get his name. Inshallah, he's absolutely box office. He really is. 150 clay. Player of the tournament in the PSL. He will steam in. He has given them some pace that they absolutely need.
Right, well, that's the men. What about the women? As I mentioned, they've still got 7 names to add to each of the squads. That'll be done on an open market basis as they go through the summer. So again, we'll go to Welsh Fire because they only retained 2 because they had she pulled out, and Sophia Dunkley and Ishmael were their 2 top picks.
Yeah, I think Shabnam Ishmael is a very important pick for them, giving them some pace with the ball. Tammy Beaumont mentioned that as well, the experience. And then Sophia Dunkley, some firepower, you know, at Cardiff is absolutely vital. You've got Hayley Matthews, you've got Tammy Beaumont, you've got Sophia Dunkley. You know, that Alex Hartley gives you that experience. The Oval Invincibles has hardly changed at all.
No.
They've got a formula, they're going to stick with it. I like that Rocket side, actually, with Harmanpreet and Nat Sivabrun. And Lizelle Lee, they've got a lot of experience in there.
Danny White and Smriti Mandana as well to open down there on the south coast.
Yeah, they've also, because they've been in the last 2 finals, the challenge for them is to get over that final hurdle, to get through the knockout stage. You know, them and the Oval Invincibles have been the 2 top sides in the women's comp. The challenge for them, and to a degree for Charlotte Edwards, their coach as well. Charlotte has got every one of her sides through. She's got to get this Southern Brave through to win the tournament, because in that lineup, plus obviously the 7 extras they will add, there is so much talent, but the Oval Invincibles have been the side to beat.
Been a lot going on, hasn't there? There's a lot of planning going on behind the scenes, and they've delivered.
I guess the strength of any competition is the players that didn't make it. So if you're talking about Riley Rousseau and the likes of
Azam.
You know, Barbara Azam and people like that. Mohammed Rizwan didn't make it. So you may look at where they bid themselves. You always have to put yourself in the right bracket, but they missed out. There's some good cricketers there. We just need some good pitches. We need some good weather. We need the fans to get behind it. Hopefully ticket sales will go through the roof. We need to keep that family atmosphere, and we need to make sure that the game stays to the right length. Cannot be adding bits on and going on late in the evening that mums and dads can't get their kids home and they're missing the last train, whatever. Remember why this tournament was brought in and stick to those rules.
August the 1st, that is when it starts, the 3rd edition of the 100 from both the men's and the women's competition. So we start with defending champions Trent Rockets against the Southern Brave. They're all double headers, 2:30 August the 1st. So hopefully this year the 100 sees more of that young, diverse fans pouring through the gates and we see some great cricket.
Everybody wants to be part of this incredible tournament.
We're all set for a cracking contest.
Nailed it! You can't keep him out of the game!
That's it!
Sensational! That is extraordinary! Up and down the ground. It's the game. It's the match. What a grab that is. Diving one-handed. Brilliant. Oh, it's brilliant. Reverse scoop. Reverse scoop.
Full and bold. The Oval Invincibles have won the first ever 100 tournament.
The Hailers, brave boys, take the first 100 comp. The men's 100 goes to the Southern Brave. That is a massive hit. In the slot. Bang! Use the power.
Will Smead, history maker.
That's better. That's better.
Rana King on a hat-trick.
And on. 3 on the bounce. Alice Capsey, as easy as you like.
Oh, God, what a catch that is.
Oh, there's a chance.
Oh, sensational catch. To win the final for the Oval Invincible women.
It's blast off for the Rockets. Winners of the 100 2022.
Sky Sports Cricket. Feel it all.